Hey everybody, I keep changing locations in my house now. My office has moved from my bedroom to the living room. Now I'm in my son's room. So anyways, we're going to start with chapter 15. This is a very long chapter, so I'm going to have to probably break it into 3 parts. So they've got Frog and Bonzo, the 2 new guys that are going to help them. Skillet, Zach, Emma. So they're going to be driving their cattle pretty soon. So let's see what happens. So the line of cattle, excuse me, a line of cattle stretched out over a quarter mile, moving slowly. The men and dogs on the sides and the wagon in the rear. Frog told Tobias he'd never been to Punta Rasa, but he knew of men who had, and that they should go south to Fort Bassinger, where there was a ferry to take the wagon across the Kissimmee River. From that point on, it was unknown territory. When they reached the fort, Tobias was charged $2 to load the wagon on a small wooden barge that was pulled across the river by ropes. The cattle, horses, and men swam, and it reminded Tobias of the time he stood on the bank of the St. Mary's and watched the cows cross the river in a long black line of bobbing horns. Only this time, none were lost, and there was no crowd of hungry spectators watching, hoping for a drowned cow to wash ashore. There were 2 days past the river when a rider came across the plain to the wagon. Tobias saw him speak briefly to Emma, and then he rode back to meet him. The man said, "My name is Sam Lowry. Are you McIvy?" He had seen the McIvy Cattle Company sign on the side of the wagon. "Tobias McIvy. Where are you headed?" We're headed to Punta Rasa." The man shifted in his saddle. "You want to buy some cows?" "What do you mean?" Tobias responded, not expecting such a question. "Well, I got a little spread a couple of miles north here. I seen you coming. I farm mostly, but I got about 65 cows, and there ain't no way I can get them market by myself. So I'll sell them to you for $3 each, and then you can put them in with your herd." Tobias calculated in his mind what they were said to be worth in Punta Rasa. If the market was as Thompson indicated, there would be a profit of $9 per cow if he bought Mr. Lowry's cows. He says, "Well, I don't have that much money on me, but I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll take them and then I'll pay you on the way back." "Well, I don't know about that. I need cash. How do I know you're going to come back here and pay me?" "You've got the word of Tobias McIvy," Tobias said firmly. "I've never broken my word to no man, and I'm not going to do it for 65 cows. When you come back, I'm going to pay you." "All right, well, they're not doing me any good just sitting here chewing on my grass, so you look like an honest man, and your missus has too. I'll take the chances with you, and I'll just go ahead and do it. You want to sign some kind of contract or paper?" "I don't need no paper unless you want it. You've got my word, and next time we come through with a herd, I'll pay you cash for whatever you got. I'll make a stop every time at your place if I can." "Well, that sounds good. Well, we ought to at least make a handshake on it." Tobias clasped the man's hand. "It's did." Frog and Bonzo rode to the homestead with Lowry and drove his cows back to the herd. This pushed the number past 800. You have 800 cows now. That night after supper, Tobias was sitting in the wagon with Emma, waiting his turn for second watch. She said, "Next time we make a drive, we better bring a whole barrel of flour, maybe a wagon load. Frog and Bonzo ate 12 biscuits each. They eat more than Skillet, and look how big he is." "Don't seem right for a man to eat that much and stay as thin as a snake. Well, look at me, though. I ain't much better. Maybe some men just don't get fat no matter what they eat." "Zach's gonna be the same way. He keeps getting taller all the time, but he don't have any meat on his bones. Seems like I'm the only one who puts on flesh." "Oh, you're just right, Emma." Tobias smiled, patting her on the shoulder. "Don't no man want to sleep with a snake. I'll take you over any skinny woman I've seen." "Oh, Tobias, be serious," she said, smiling too. Tobias said, "You know, Emma, I've been thinking about the cows we got from Lowry. There must be men scattered all over the place with small herds and no way to get them to the market. If we get enough cash money, I could ride ahead of the drive and buy cows for $3 each, and what we got here now ain't nothing to what we could have. We could end up a drive with thousands of cows and not even have to go to the trouble of catching them." "That's true," Emma agreed, "but when you just give your word for payment like you did today, what are you going to do if we lose the herd like we did once before? How are you going to pay anyone?" "Well, that ain't likely. We're bound to get through some of them. We got the men to do it. But if we make Punta Rasa with only 65 cows and those are Lowry's cows, I gave him my word." "Yes, you did, and I know about how McIvy thinks." She took his hand and held it. "If I were Lowry, I would trust you." Tobias smiled again. "Well, it's worth thinking on, buying cows along the way." All right, so for 3 days, they moved over a marsh flat just to the south of a dense swamp. The grass here was rich and bountiful, and Tobias thought it would make a good place to bring cows for summer grazing. It was just before midnight on the third day when Tobias awakened to the sound of the whip cracking 3 times, a signal of danger. He dressed hurriedly, jumped up from the wagon, and saddled his horse. Skillet and Zek heard it too, and they were already mounted. Frog and Bonzo were with the herd. The cracking came again, and Skillet said, "Well, whatever it is, must figure they need help bad. They keep hopping that whip. They're going to spook the cows for sure." There was a full moon flooding the marsh, and the herd was easily visible a quarter mile away. As they rode forward, they could hear bellowing and the dull thump of hooves striking the ground. Zek said, "You want me to go back and untie the dogs, Papa?" "Not yet. Let's see what the trouble is first." They rode to the right of the herd and they found Frog, and he said, "Oh, I'm sure glad you got here this quick. We couldn't hold them cows much longer." "What's happening?" Tobias asked, puzzled. "I don't see anything to stir them up." "You will. Look over yonder at the edge of the swamp." Tobias shifted in his saddle and looked to the north, and he said, "Oh no, wolves. A whole passel of them, just like I seen on the Confederate cattle drive." Dark forms darted everywhere in the moonlight, running forward, turning back to the woods, coming forward again, each time getting closer to the herd. "I don't know how to handle something like this," Frog said. "You're going to have to tell me what you want me to do." "Well, if they don't attack, they'll stampede the herd," Tobias said. "We got to keep them back. Frog, you and Bonzo keep circling the herd. Zek, you and Skillet go back to the wagon and turn the dogs loose. And then bring all the firewood we got back here. Me and Skillet will use torches, and Zek, you go to the herd and help them out here. If the cows break, get out of the way and let them go. We'll round them up in the morning. Just do not get in the way. Hurry." Tobias's horse danced nervously as he waited for Zek and Skillet to return. When one wolf rushed forward, he unfurled his whip and charged it, slashing at the darting form again and again, feeling cowhide touch flesh as the wolf howled in pain and turned back. The horse bucked and kicked, terrorized by the wolf's smell, almost throwing him off the saddle. Nip and Tuck streaked through the yellow grass, barking and snarling, 2 gray forms moving so fast that Tobias lost track of them. They rushed right through the wolves, and then they came back and positioned themselves halfway between the woods and the herd, apparently fearless of what stalked in front of them. Skillet rode up with a burlap sack full of pine knots. He said, "I didn't mean to be so long, but I built a fire by the wagon. Mrs. Emma's all fretted up, and I didn't want to leave her alone in the dark." "Good, that was good thinking, Skillet. You done right. Tie the horses to a bush while I light these torches. We best stay on foot with the fire. We can move around better this way." Tobias and Skillet then ran, constantly moving with the wolves, thrusting fire forward when a dark form came close, smelling singed hair and running away again. The sound of whips blended with bellowing as the cows charged in one direction, and then they were turned back, and they stomped their hooves and charged again, crashing into each other. One wolf broke into the outside circle of the herd, and a shrill, almost human scream overwhelmed all the other sounds as a calf hit the ground and struggled frantically to get away. Nip and Tuck were on the wolf's back, instantly snarling, teeth snapping, hair flying, sending the wolf sprawling across the ground. Some of the cows broke away from the battle site and ran, and no amount of men or whips could stop them. Tobias glanced at some of them as they thundered away and disappeared into the direction of the swamp. A death cry came from a wolf as the dogs got him. It stumbled back toward the woods, leaving a trail of blood, falling and then scrambling forward, and then it finally fell to the ground. A mournful sound seemed to frighten the other wolves. For a few minutes they all moved back and forth among themselves, bewildered and undecided, and then they ran swiftly to the edge of the woods and disappeared. Tobias and Skillet put out their torches, mounted, and rode to the herd. Frog came to them and said, "About 30 of them broke out, Mr. McIver. We couldn't stop them. It was when that wolf got in here." "I know, I seen it. We're just lucky it wasn't more than that. We'll find him in the morning. All of us need to stay out here the rest of the night in case some wolves come back." "Hey, where's Zek?" "Over to the right," Frog said. "He had that little hoss going like a jackrabbit. I sure wouldn't want him to turn that whip on me the way he was using it on them wolves. Go and tell him to stay with his mama until the rest of us come in. She's probably up in the top of a tree by now. Tell him to hurry on into the wagon." Oh my gosh, scary. So they didn't get, so the cows, 30 of the cows ran off, but the rest of the herd is okay and nobody got hurt. Wow, I guess you don't really think about that kind of stuff happening. Ooh, scary. All right, have an awesome Thursday, guys. Friday, sorry, it's Friday. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next week. Bye.